important thing is there has to be a system of transitioning from one generation to the next, number one. And we need to look at, in fact, by and large, you find most of the family-owned businesses that were the generation, I would say, who created the business versus those who are inheriting the business. There's a difference. Those were people who might or might not have been formally educated to the level of business management and so on. But I find that most big business houses, their kids have gone to B schools, they've gone to Harvard and Princeton and Oxford and other places, and they are very well qualified as far as formal education is concerned. But the transition part really comes in is, one is the giver perspective, which is the first generation, and the receiver perspective. Giver perspective, some want to give, some don't want to give. Those who don't want to give have two reasons. One, either they don't want to lose power or control. They feel insecure. Or they feel the kids are not ready to take over right now. These are the only two reasons. And the kids, on the other side, actually may or may not be ready. And they have another challenge. How do I function or run the organization the way it has been run for the last 55 years? It might have been good at that point, and there are many people working in our organization for 10, 20, even 30 years, 40 years, who are older than me. And they are still in the company, and they have set ways. How do you change them? They don't want to change them, and they don't look at us as a boss either. We were kids when they walked in. But anyway, the most important thing is there has to be a succession plan. There must be a succession plan. And the succession plan is a transition. I've seen some good organization within India or overseas where there are large family-owned businesses, and there are people who have graduated from wherever they have, they start from the bottom. And gradually they bring them up, and then they take over. I think that's a very good way of transitioning into a business. But there are certain things that the newer generation needs to formalize, such as strategic planning. Then I would say many places don't even have proper strategic planning. And the next part is, even if they do, the biggest failure doesn't take place in planning. 90% of failure takes place in implementation. They are not able to implement. And that is where, in fact, going forward now, many of our clients who went through our workshops, they came back to us and they said, well, we hear a lot of good things in your workshop. Now, how do we implement? We need hand-holding. Take us from this point to the next point. And so we've started some consulting services with some of our clients and taking them from one point to another in terms of sales, which is the crucial part, is getting the revenue up, and of course, making people more effective within the organization through training on attitude, leadership, motivation, and values. Because we find the biggest challenge is we don't have business problems, we have people problems. Well, process-driven organizations are not dependent totally on a person. And I think people come, people go. Process ought to be there. But you see, the best process in the world will not work if you don't have the right people up there. So process is very crucial. And whoever comes in, even if you hire a new person, your induction orientation becomes a lot easier. And then once you have, well, induction orientation is a process by itself anyway. And then gradually, you slide them in so they understand. Process means we clarify expectations of one another up front when you join. Tell me, how can a person perform or expect performance when expectations are not made clear up front? How can they perform? They can't. So, important thing is that in most organizations we find that the roles and goals of people are not clear. They may say they are clear, but they are not clear. I say two things, roles and goals. What do they mean? Roles is function, and goals is targets. So they are really not totally clear, and I think that is where it's important to have them clear and then a game plan and monitoring along with it. You see, if you don't inspect what you expect, you will never get what you expect.